you shouldn't buy it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I got to spend some time with the Bonzai Phantom, or in the case of Amazon rebranding, the Road Hunter Comet Racer. It's a Bonzai Phantom. And in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 upsides and 5 downsides of owning the Bonzai Phantom. Oh boy, the weather is about to become unfriendly, so let's just jump right into it. Upsides first. Upside number 1. Just look at it. That is one good-looking 12-scale RC. Even though it's a 12-scale, I was still somewhat impressed by the size of it when I pulled it out of the box. Of course, being a full-bodied RC, they always look a little bigger, so it actually looks a little closer to a 10 scale than it does to a 12 scale. Upside number 2, performance. This car comes as a brushed RC car. I did brushless swap this, but it started off as a brushed RC that was capable of running 2S and 3S and capable of speeds of over 30 miles per hour straight out of the box. For a brushed RC, that's not bad at all. It handles really, really well, even though it does not have oil shocks. And even if I hadn't brushless swapped this car, it would still feel very fast. Go almost 38 miles an hour, not bad. Upside number 3. Of all the Arrma Infraction clones out there in the RC hobbyverse, this one is easily the most like the Infraction of them all. Now, this is not an Arrma Infraction. I don't want any Arrma representatives sending me some sort of a cease and desist order. This is not an Arrma Infraction, I repeat, but of all the Infraction clones on the market, this is the most like the Infraction that I have seen. But again, not an Arrma Infraction. Upside number 4, upgradability. This car came as a brush system, and a really good brush system at that. Like I said before, brushless swapping to a typical 10 scale sized brushless system was really easy. And the entire process took me about 25 minutes from start to finish. The motor mount even has a little dial on it, so you know exactly where to put your screws depending on the size pinion gear that you're using, which in short means it has adjustable mesh gearing. And it is running 48 pitch gearing, which means lots of gear change options. Upgradability in terms of brushless swap, super easy. One of the easiest cars I've ever done a brushless swap on. Oh, what a drift. Dumbo radios, guys. Can make any car into a half-decent drift car. Upside number 5, durability. With some of the crashes I've already had with this car, I'd say it definitely qualifies as a street basher by every sense of the definition. Would it be as tough as an Arrma Infraction? Would it be as tough as the new MJX Hypergo, which is another very popular Arrma Infraction clone? I don't know. It's definitely larger than the new MJX Hypergo. That's a 14 scale. This is a 12 scale. But I will say this car has been plenty tough for me so far. I've taken off a few small jumps, nothing too crazy or too high up in the air because the chassis sits so low to the ground that every landing is a guaranteed chassis slapper. But I've definitely hit some things at pretty high speed. Had a few head-on collisions with some curbs already, and nothing bad seems to have happened yet. I've definitely been really hard on the gearing, as I'm sure you can tell. No clicking, no stripping, nothing really. Just works just fine. This car actually handles legitimately good. Don't worry, we're gonna get to the downsides too. I'm just having fun. I think this might actually be the best Arrma Infraction clone on the RC market. If you were doing some street course racing with your friends with this car, even if they were in faster cars, you would stand a real chance at being competitive with them. Oh, launch the battery out. That rounds out 5 upsides of owning the Bonzai Phantom. Now let's get to the downsides. Downside number 1, the shocks. They're very, very stiff. They're just spring coil shocks. There's no oil in them whatsoever. Of all the other nice things that this car offers at its budget price, to be missing oil shocks is it's just hard for me to get over that. It does handle really well in spite of that fact, but definitely do notice those shocks missing, especially when you hit little pebbles and any little debris on the road. It can really upset this car. You can even see how hard it bounces while it's driving. That's a tough one for me. Downside number 2. This. Not this, that's just the battery. I mean, that. The battery tray. All that potential space inside this RC car for a larger battery, but it's taken up by the servo, which is a 10 scale size servo. Granted, that is nice, but it could have been under the ESC, it could have been on the other side of the car, and that would have opened up so much more space for much larger batteries. But as it is, batteries this size are about all that can fit in that battery tray. They do make 3S batteries in this size as well. Jen's Ace makes a really nice one. This is just a typical WL Toys battery that you would get with a 14 scale buggy. Not much room in this battery tray. So you do have to resort to creative measures. Double-sided mounting tape, stick it right to there. Usually holds up pretty well, even in the event of a crash. But if you take the flipping and spinning too hard, you will launch the battery out. Of all the nice things this RC car offers, this battery tray is almost laughable. That servo really could have been under the ESC and there would have been plenty of room for this body. Downside number 3. While this is usually about a $150 RC car, these used to be closer to $200, which puts them within a hop, skip, and a jump of an actual Arrma Infraction. The Mega, that is, not the 3S. It's not going to be quite as high quality as the Arrma Infraction Mega out of the box, so for it to have ever been to within $50 the same price is kind of crazy. At the moment, this car is available for about $150, all the way down to, I got this one for $84. Amazon was running a special on these cars. I believe they're running 30% off on these cars at the moment. So they're actually under $100 at the moment, but I don't know how long they're gonna stay that way. If this car had better shocks and a bigger battery tray, I'd say $150 is actually a completely fair price. But that tiny battery tray and those awful shocks make it really, really hard to justify a price anything over, in my opinion, $100. Maybe $120. And it's only because of that battery tray and those shocks. Because it's otherwise a really good RC car, but those are two big issues that are really, really hard to overlook. Though again, I will say, it does handle really well, even with those terrible shocks. Just put it right where you want it and it will turn. So I will say that for it. At least it does handle well, even given the crap shocks. Downside number 4, parts availability. The problem is where to look for the parts. Bonzai RC cars have been around for a while and they are known, and they actually do make pretty good RC cars. But they're certainly no household name in the RC world. Therefore, their parts availability is nowhere near like a Traxxas or an Arrma or even a WL Toys. Again, you can get parts for this car, but you are going to have to dig a bit for them. The thing is about this car is I actually personally really like this RC car. I really have fun driving this RC car. It's fast, it handles really well. Brushed or brushless, this car is surprisingly fast. It's tough, it looks good, it checks pretty much all the boxes of what a good RC car should be. Didn't break the bank, all that happy stuff. But the problem is, I can't recommend this car. It's not a car that I would recommend simply because when it's not on special like it is right now, it is a bit expensive. At least when you consider in the case of this particular model, that tiny battery tray and those awful shocks. It makes that $150 price tag just that much harder to justify. And because finding parts for it does take a little bit of digging, though you will always find them. Again, let me just say that again. I don't want to badmouth the RC or the company. You will find the parts, but you're just going to have to dig around for them a bit, and who knows how long you're going to have to wait for them. And that brings me to downside number 5. The fact that I really enjoy the car, and the fact that the car really does tick all the boxes of what a good, fun RC car is supposed to be. But in spite of all those good things, I just can't recommend that you guys go out and buy this car. And it is the best Arrma Infraction clone I have ever seen, and I really mean that. But it's still not an Arrma Infraction. While the Arrma Infraction Mega is well over $100 more expensive than this car, it's worth every penny because you can upgrade that just like you can this. And you know that even if your Arrma Infraction does break, you can pop right down to the hobby shop, get whatever parts you need, out the door, and you're back on the road, no problem. So there we go, guys. The 5 upsides of this car are really great upsides. And unfortunately, the 5 downsides, while some are minor, a couple of them are major. In the case of this car, you're better off to just buy yourself an Arrma Infraction. And that might be the first time I've done a review on this channel where I said, you know what, guys? This car is really good, and you shouldn't buy it. I even provided a link to it in the last video of it, in the first review. And I'm telling you, you should not buy it. With that, let me just say, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Remember, it's not about miles per hour. It's about smiles per mile. So have fun. I can't put my thumb up. and we'll see you in the next one. Oh, you're pointing with the comet. Boom, right in there somewhere. Maybe in the next video, there will be a car that you should buy.